The war on the poor has commenced. I'm going to cover 3 different ways this is going down and 3 other ways you could actually mitigate the risks involved. So, of course, this is going to make the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. However, what are 3 specific ways this is going to happen? Just so you're aware of it, because the number one thing to overcome issues is to identify as much as you can, even if you're in the midst of something. Being an active identifier helps you work through any issue. Number one, poor will suffer. Social safety nets, of course, are being dropped like flies. We got 1,000 VA staff members being cut on the Social Security Administration side. 7,000 are being cut. That effectively is reducing service, right? So it's effectively reducing benefits for those sorts of people. One of my tenants in the affordable housing world, as some of you know already, I'm in real estate rental property development. One of them was actually affected by lack of childcare because of this being pulled by this administration. So they're actually working 2 full-time jobs and dependent on those childcare subsidies so they could proceed with working because they don't make that much. So imagine if you're not even a married couple, if you're a single person, you're going through a hard time, if you're disabled, you can't even know where to start of where to get assistance. That's going to be even more of a provocative scenario. So, of course, we're also seeing mass job loss. This is an interesting thing because I can't imagine that our own government is causing millions of job losses. It's usually the private sector that did something bad to cause that, like the 2008 market crash, of course, caused by the private sector. The recession in the early 1900s was caused by, again, the private sector. As far as I could recollect, there was a lot of people out here, saying I could make $1 million out of $1, and people would invest in that. There was also wars, of course, that affected that recession. So it wasn't just a direct government administration caused issue. It was a variety of factors. So this one is actually surprising in that it's essentially being enforced by the government. Number 3, you make your money when you buy. So this concept, of course, most people know, but it's essentially how Warren Buffett made $10 billion off of the 2008 market crash, because he saw that all the properties would be lowering in value in a dramatic fashion, and they did. So coming out of that, he made $10 billion. So for investors like me, there will be a lot more deals to be had. And, if you're an expert, though, if you're an expert investor like I am, and the people that, my peers, you could find a deal in any market, really, so long as you're putting out the right marketing, the right feelers out in the network, and you'll find it. So this one will just make it easier because people will be losing their jobs, losing their homes. They have to accept lower prices. So, lastly, my advice. What could you do? Because I know it's easy to just sit in the problems and be like, oh, woe is me. But there's also much, much more value in what can we do now? How can we build from this? Number 1, build up your capital reserves. And if you don't have, a high-paying job, go drive for Lyft, make $1,000 a week. Get as much capital as you can together, because you don't know if somebody's going to be in such a desperate position that they could be like, hey man, if you just take over this note, I'll give you this house. I can't afford this $4,000 a month anymore, and I just lost my job. I can't find another one. Please just save my credit from dying. So if you have $4,000 or whatever, $10,000, if you save that in short order, you might be able to find deals, and you actually could make your wealth build out of this. Like the rich will be getting richer, also doing a lot of owner financing, and the like. Number 2, learn how to handle stress well and not cave in like most. So I've always said this before. I wish there was like a social etiquette and feeling type training class when we were growing up, because we got all these things, these new things affecting us in society, and there's no tools to be able to address it. Things like talk therapy, or even just figuring out how to empathize with people. If you can't have those things of like oh, you went through this, I went through that. This is how we relate with each other. If you don't have that and the ability to really let your body feel through things, you're going to be much more inclined to just cave into yourself and go into that oh woe is me state, or act out with other people. Like, if anybody that goes under stress goes and does dumb things sometimes. Like, I've done it myself. We treat people closest to us, in just stupid ways because we don't know how to behave when things don't go our way. So I've done a lot of work on myself for that. So that's number two, learn how to handle stress well. And lastly, if you don't have education or experience with buying assets, pay an expert, or even join forces with them. I see this slowly building up, this concept of like, well, I want to learn this stuff, but I don't want to put any skin in the game. I don't want to be a partner with anybody. I don't want to be a minority stake partner with somebody that is more experienced than me. Like, I'm like, dude, you're setting yourself up for like failure by not being open to anything, especially if you're a beginner. Because think about it, you're gonna go through years of figuring this stuff out on your own versus paying somebody to help you along, especially if they're actively doing development or fix and flips or rentals, whatever you want to explore. By having a partner, even if it is a minority situation because of your experience, lack of capital, lack of management, lack of team, etc., you're going to get 100% of something versus 100% of nothing, right? So don't let that kind of scarcity mindset dictate how you behave in the world. And those are kind of the things I wanted to just advise you on. Number one, on the problem side, the poor will suffer. Our mass job losses already happening and will continue to happen. And lastly, you make your money when you buy. On the advice side, build up your capital reserves, learn how to handle stress well, and if you don't have education or experience, go in it with somebody else. If you have questions, let me know. I want to make content more regularly, so subscribe, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. I love driving this value for you. I get energized from education. I'm glad that I finally have some time from the many projects that we've done over the years to actually do this stuff. So I'll be doing it a lot more. So throw a question, a topic in the comments. I'd love to cover it if I have time for the next video. All right, catch you later.